Which that exactly what it gives you is like precision in the things that you do. It gives you exactly what to tweak in your training, in your movement, in your daily habits, to get the most results. Like we talked about a few punches instead of throwing 1,000. Like that's what a coach does for you.
What if building your next multi-million-dollar business depended more on your morning workout routine than your actual morning meetings? I'm here to talk today with Petar Krastev, a high-performance coach to elite entrepreneurs, to set the stage with this. Jeff Bezos transformed into a jacked version of himself. David Goggins is all over the internet talking about his ultra marathon discipline. Fitness is no longer an option. It's something that can be strategic in your business. So Petar, it is so thankful to have you here on the show. And let's talk a little bit about the champion's mindset and how they can incorporate fitness into their life to see success, both personally and in their business.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be here. I love
Dude,
the podcast.
you know, one of the things that I love is, I'm actually wearing my Muay Thai shirt right now, and is that we share an absolute passion for competitive combative sports, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, MMA. What is it that drives us to really love to not only maybe participate in those sports, but at a minimum watch and enjoy them? Why do we do that?
Steve, when I was a kid, I learned this lesson really obviously. When I was a kid, I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good in anything. I was that outsider kid that nobody loves, nobody likes. And I remember every time when the class goes out to play football, I was super, super anxious about it because the football was the one thing that I just couldn't play. I could trip in my own feet. That's how bad I was. And everybody was making jokes on me. So I didn't love it. But there were things that I was good at. So I was doing them more often and I end up loving them. And I think the things that we get used to and that we're good at, we naturally start loving. And it's the same with the game of fitness and being fit. If you
You
are
know,
good at
that
being fit, you love it.
and that is so true. I had probably the same relationship with football or soccer, what you might call soccer, is that, I watch them like gazelles running over the field and just absolute poetry in the way they move that ball. And I was very Scottish or I think it was maybe even English in the way that I portrayed that as I looked and I said, well, why don't I just pick up the ball instead? And so I decided to play rugby for a long period of time rather than that, because I knew I could smash, but I definitely couldn't run like the gazelle. So, and I played rugby since I was probably 13 till I think it was 39. And it's such a beautiful sport. But if I would have kept on trying to go down that rabbit hole of soccer or football, I don't think I would have found the same love of fitness that you talk about. Is that if you find that passion for what you're doing and you see good results come out of it, you keep on doing it.
Sometimes something clicks. And I think that's what's missing, with fitness. It's missing from people's lives because they never, it's not in the culture. They
No,
don't
no, it's not.
train us to train. They don't train us to think this way. We usually take our lives as granted, like for granted. We have 40, 50, 60 years left of our life that most probably we're going to live even if we don't train. So most people don't bother for the rest of 30 years. They think fitness is hard work, but in reality it's so easy. I feel like most things on this planet that people do right now are easy once you get them. Like
Yep.
you just have to
Yeah,
get
I
it
think
right.
I think it's Les Brown is the one who said this. He said, if you do things in your life that are hard, your life will become easy. And if you do things in your life that are easy, your life will become hard. So focus on doing hard things and your life's going to be easy. And I think that certainly applies to putting fitness as a priority. And I know Khabib said, he was talking about a framework of building habits. And one of the things that it's a really hard truth that Khabib Nurmagomedov talked about is if you give something up once, it becomes a habit. What does that mean to you?
If you give something up once,
It becomes a habit.
how can you give up? Like
The habit becomes the giving up, not of the doing.
really? Yeah, that's a good one. You just made me sick so much.
It's funny because you think of
It's
him,
deep,
I'm going to smash that guy, but he's actually a pretty cerebral dude. And there's a
smart.
lot of fighters that are very much that way. And even Jeff Bezos, he was talking, he said, you can't imagine the energy shift in your body when your body catches up to your ambition. And it's so important to kind of align those things. And how do you think entrepreneurs who are, fighting the demands of they've got to be in this board meeting, they've got to get on this flight and that sort of thing, how did they internalize that physical discipline and build that mental and physical stamina to actually not only get the ball rolling, but get it to be sustainable?
Well, most people do it once it gets desperate, once they need it so much that they have to do something about it. And then you have to go through the painful cycle for learning. There's no shortcut to that. You can't just get into fitness and suddenly make it fit your lifestyle. You have to go through the process of adapting all these new habits of eating, of training, of moving, prioritizing your fitness and act like it's a priority number one. I actually tell my clients, your fitness has to be priority number one above your business and above your family. Because even if it's not, something will take its place. And that doesn't happen overnight. You have to build up to it. But once you build up to it, then it's very easy to maintain how much you have to travel to not be able to do 3 workouts in a week. Like if you're really, really serious, you end up doing workouts in the plane. It's not going to be an excuse, right? And it's not that hard.
Absolutely.
20 minutes is what it takes.
I was at a recent conference with Grant Cardone, and when I went to the gym at, I think it was about 4:45, 5 in the morning, because I figured I was going to beat everybody. The gym was just wall to wall full of people, and I couldn't fit in. It was just so packed, because that was really, it's the mindset of it. I mean, look at Grant. I mean, he transformed himself when he was 60 years old, from being sort of a little bit frumpy to being jacked. And he said, my confidence exploded when I took my body seriously. And you can see that that's now conveyed through his whole culture of his company, that all of his people are now heavily into that idea of ensuring that their body is, successful. He did it at 60. I really dove into health when I was 38, when I started Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was 240 pounds, or not 240, 230, we'll say 230 pounds. And over a period of time, I got down to about 175, 180 pounds. And my strength and conditioning went off the rails. I mean, when I played rugby, I was strong, but I was a different kind of strong when I started doing jiu-jitsu. Sort of
What
like
got you into it?
Volkanovski.
What got you into jiu-jitsu? I'm not going off topic, but I really want to know.
I try to put myself back there when I think of all the new students who join. I think it was a curiosity around, I did wrestling in high school, and obviously rugby is a very physical, combative style sport. But I wanted something where I had a moment on a field where I wanted to be able to handle things just a little bit differently. There's sometimes heated moments in rugby, and so I went in originally for Muay Thai, and then I saw the jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump in on that and see what that's all about. And so the same day that I started for the Muay Thai, I started with the jiu-jitsu, and I ran with both in parallel. But I found that jiu-jitsu, because of my grappling background, I could really excel at, even being somebody who started at 38. I mean, now I turned 50 this year, and I'm still rolling with people who are in their 20s, and still giving them a combative go. Maybe not as if I were in my 30s or 40s, early 40s, but it's still, I think I can hold my own, even after knee surgery this year. But
That's
to say
great.
what's got me started, it was a curiosity. I think it was definitely just a curiosity, whether it was through the UFC and watching what was going on with the UFC, or just to, to see how I can handle situations differently. I think that's really what it was curiosity.
Seems very addictive. Most of my friends who try jiu-jitsu, they keep training jiu-jitsu. And the same with wrestling as well. I personally haven't done it yet, but I feel like I definitely want to do this one day. And I feel like as more we age, this actually becomes more of a appropriate sport for us, because you can use more of your intelligence. Your body doesn't damage that much. It's for intelligent people, that thing.
It's funny. I talk to a lot of MMA fighters who are in a gym or otherwise, and they always say that the jiu-jitsu training is the hardest on their body compared to their striking. And because of just the stretching, the motion, the movements, it can actually be pretty difficult for the body. But the problem is, I think you're 100% right. It's highly, highly addictive, because one of the things that I think are built in our DNA as being a human is that we crave knowledge, and jujitsu is a conundrum, Because as you learn this one technique, then you learn the counter to the technique, then you learn the setup to the counter to the technique, and then you look at the counter to the counter, and it just starts building all of these layers on top. And you want to just keep on exploring those layers because you're going to run into a wall where at some point you thought something worked until it didn't. And now you got to figure it out. That's why people like Mark Zuckerberg got into jujitsu. You look at him and he's addicted. You can tell he's addicted to jujitsu
He's a
because
strange one.
yeah, it's just he's a thinker, and so he loves it. And there's so many people in Hollywood that are addicted to jujitsu, and even in other sports that get addicted to jujitsu because it really truly is a conundrum. You watch somebody like Gordon Ryan go and take down the mountain from Game of Thrones as if he was just a child, and it's just so interesting to watch that, in the way that you can use it to definitely your advantage.
I think that translates to in life, in business, in everything. The ability to achieve something so complicated. Once you reach these layers that you're talking about, I mean, you're gonna be walking with a different level of confidence into any meeting, any obstacle that comes in life, any business challenge. There comes a point where you're not scared of anything, and I think sports help with that quite a
Well,
lot.
absolutely. I mean, certainly. I mean, we talked earlier on about Muay Thai, and we had somebody in our gym go and he fought Israel Adesanya, he fought Joe Schilling, and some of the greats. And at our gym, he would destroy anybody. And then you watch him at those levels go to those kind of levels of competition and realize that there's levels to this game. So I mean, for me, it's not necessarily a no fear game. It's more of a situation of a less fear game in that scenario.
There is fear. There is fear in life. And if you can recognize that when the fear is something you can actually overcome and you can combat, that's very powerful. I get that from my squat training, from my legs training. Every leg workout scares the shit out of me because
Well, that's my next foray in actually my jujitsu development. Is I feel that my technique is to a level that I'm plateauing on technique, where my physicality is because I had surgery earlier on and I didn't really keep up with a regiment of fitness as much as I did of technique. That I have to actually catch up my fitness to the level of my technique so I can keep on growing in jujitsu. And so, I think they both play into it. I think the idea that jujitsu, the smaller person can beat the bigger person, but only when the bigger person is untrained. As soon as the bigger person becomes trained to the same level as the smaller person, there's mechanical advantages in the differences of the body structures and speed and age and all those other things. But at the end of the day, you've got to work on that physicality to be successful.
here's the thing. Fat people come to me with arrogance saying that they don't need fitness. I always say that you can never be at your peak performance if you're unfit, if you're fat, overweight, especially if you have health problems. You might be dominating in the circle that you live in, and a lot of people get fooled by that. They live in that small company or circle, and they make more money than everybody. They're the big balls, and now they think they're bowling. But as soon as you get into the room with jacked people who are at your level, they'll just like eat for breakfast. And yeah, that's when you realize you have to get fit because your mind is unfit. Everything is unfit about you when you're fit.
Absolutely. And I that's why I love the UFC and I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because what it does is it actually allows you to test those theories. And so, in Jiu-Jitsu, all it is it takes this little tap and the match is over. But up until that point, you can go full tilt trying to choke that person out or break that person's arm until the time that they just tap and now it's done and you reset and you go again. And so there is no negotiation. There's no sitting there as an armchair quarterback saying, oh, I could totally take you, but my martial art is so dangerous that I can't even use it. We won't even utter the word, the McDojo life kind of approach. And whereas you can just go in and say, no, we're going to test this theory and actually see that it works. And I think using that as a modicum for success in the ring is the same modicum for success in business. Is that the idea of just going out and testing things and getting into massive action, I think is what's extremely important. And so that allows us to do things like, David Goggin talks about this really. He says, if you want to be uncommon among uncommon men, you've got to do big things, right? And so that's where I think a lot of healthy people really stand out. And we're seeing this as a theme at the executive board that everybody is getting into better shape. Look at somebody like Dan Martell. He wrote the Buy Back Your Time book, and he was on a little short that he was talking about. And he said, if somebody can't trust them for what can't trust themselves for what they put in their mouth, how can they trust for, where you're going to put your faith in them? And something along that lines where, they can't control themselves in this aspect of their life. How are they going to control themselves in other aspects? And that's why I think that discipline that they learn in physically, in the way that they handle the nutrition, applies to exactly how they handle their business.
Yeah, that's a big one. I wouldn't get into business with somebody who can't stop eating donuts and can't look after himself and always gives excuses. Can't really trust that person 100%. We can do some work together, but I'm not gonna commit and expect him, and I'm not gonna depend on him. Not putting my life in the hands of people who can't do these simple things. This is like making your bed in the morning.
Yeah. Well,
You have to be able to do it.
Jordan Peterson talks a lot about that, is the importance of making your bed in the morning.
Yeah,
Make your bed.
yeah, and look after your health. I know it sounds probably very simple now as we speak. For the listener, they think like these guys are just taking a piece here and they can't get to the gym. But the reality, guys, is you gotta go start from where you are and start learning this. It might take you years to adapt. It might really take you a lot of struggle, a lot of effort to get used to training and eating well. But it's a battle that you have to lead for yourself, for your family, for everybody that looks up to you, everybody that depends on you. And once, especially men, understand that and get it and actually accept that responsibility, that's when changes happen. Or without you accepting the responsibility of how important it is, to be fit and healthy for everybody else.
Yep. Yeah. I think that is so crucial. You're doing it for yourself, but you're more importantly also doing it for the people that you support. And knowing a lot of friends of mine who later in life have a lot of morbidities because of maybe they didn't look after their health in the way that they should have, they're putting the rest of their family in a situation where, that could have been another 20 years of life. That could have been another 5 years of life if they would have taken the early steps to solve some of those things. Now, I know a lot of people have an uphill battle in combating some of the things that might be just built into the DNA of their body. But that being said, I mean, look at somebody like Mark Hunt. I mean, Mark Hunt is a very big man, and you watch his commitment to health. I mean, that guy can move so quick. I mean, he was the master of the one punch knockout, the walk away knockout, and even though physically he might not look that he was the Adonis style body, dude was in shape, man.
Yeah. When I struggled to get into fitness many years ago, like 10 years ago, throughout my life, I always did fitness for myself only, trying to just get fit so I can be with some girls that I like and just have a little bit more self-confidence. And I always struggled. But when shit hit the fan properly, and I was living in a garage, no electricity, no water, struggling to pay bills, my dreams were fading away in front of me. I was like in that tunnel, very long tunnel at the light, and the tunnel was getting smaller, it wasn't getting bigger all the time. And that's when I realized I just have to start doing this and never stop. And it's one of the reasons why what made me commit to fitness. I, I just recognized there's no other way. If I just keep bouncing between business, work, and my health back and forwards, which was literally what's happening, juggling both things, never doing both at the same time, not long enough anyway. I always lose. Every time I stop fitness, 3 months later, my business struggles. Something happens. And it gets so bad that I know from experience, look how stupid I was. I knew that every time I have a problem in life, I have to get to the gym to sort out my financial problem. But I never got the idea that I can't afford to stop. So I was doing that. Like when things get hard, I go to the gym. And then when business is booming and demands a little bit more of my time so we can make a little bit more moves, let's keep workouts for a little bit of time, a month or two. And then 6 months later, I, I look fat, floppy. I don't like myself at all. And business is struggling again. And I'm like,
Yeah, and I think that's totally resonates with me. The time period in which I went through my knee surgery and I just mentally slowed down because I wasn't working out at the level that I was. It was tough. And I probably made a lot of bullshit excuses around the idea of, I probably could have done other type of workouts, and I probably could have done other things that didn't require lower body movement. But I accepted sub performance, and I look at that time in my business, I also accepted sub performance. And so the two go hand in hand. And if you're going to show up in one way in your life, you're going to show up that way in every aspect of your life. And that's why doing hard things in the gym, especially I believe first thing in the morning, is the best thing you can do to be successful in life.
Yeah. I don't know about the first thing. It sticks to a lot of people. I know a lot of my clients love the first thing in the morning. I personally love training like after the first thing. First thing is I do my business and morning routine to wake up properly. I do some hard work. And then immediately after, when I get tired from work, I go to the gym. But it's still in the morning. I just
So
use that
you're using
late
gym
in the morning.
as a reward for the hard work you did for the business side of things.
Yeah, it fires me up a lot. When I do a lot of work, my business, and sometimes it's like what that I really don't want to do, and I get it done in the morning, I'm so fired up at the end that I can't even concentrate on any more work. I can't sit down. I'm hyped up, and I use that hype to go and train very hard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, I've
my
never
way.
seen that. I've never seen that model. That actually is a super interesting model to do that breakout. I know there's people who do go to our gym at, I think we have a 10:30 Muay Thai class, and that class is always full. And I'm wondering if they all subscribe to that same sort of model, is that they get,
Possibly.
a good chunk of their work done in the morning. They go out and have their break. They reward themselves and they come back.
Most people are lazy. Most people don't do that. The, the small number of people who are obsessed and really driven, they do that. It's very good time for powerlifting. When you powerlift, you want to be at your best. Your nervous system needs to be primed up, very energized. You need to have some breakfast before that. You don't want to go on empty stomach. And that's when you can excel with strength and power.
Yeah, that's one thing I probably miss right now in my regime is the lifting. I don't think I've probably lifted from a weights perspective for at least 15 years, I would think.
You should do
Probably.
calisthenics.
What's that?
You should do calisthenics.
That's what it's funny because that's exactly what I went through. This guy in our gym, Scott Mills, showed me this whole calisthenic workout that he does and it's really done a great job for dealing with, he had 2 knee surgeries. So he's ahead of me. I think he's on 3, maybe. I don't know. And so that ability to be able to, overcome those moments and get into calisthenics has definitely been something that's been valuable. And I think that's for me is going to be my biggest focus going into 2025, 2026 is the work I do outside of the mats to make my work inside of the mats successful.
Yeah, you want to have both. And calisthenics is like really good. Most people underestimate it, and I think it's very fast growing sport right now. Street workout and calisthenics. Most gym trainers, they used to believe that calisthenics and bodyweight training is something you do at the beginning, but it's totally not. Like it's so much harder to train with your own body if you actually do it properly and if you start to
Well, I think
advance
Conor
forward.
McGregor's fitness coach was a big proponent of that
Yeah, I
in
love
all
him.
the body movements.
I love him because they explore the way his body moves and how he has to train. He was so unique and it was just
He
beautiful,
was.
straightforward.
And then he gave that up and he became swole now. But when he was actually successful in the ring, that was, I think, one of the key elements that drove his success.
I think he's bipolar. I've heard that. I'm not sure. So
Sorry?
bipolar, which is really messed up. And yeah, it drives me nuts. I'm not an expert, don't want to talk about it, but I know that people who like them, they can be hyper successful, but a lot of them end up with suicide. I don't want
Oh,
to be a bad prophet
that's
or
a
anything. I
dangerous.
really love McGregor, but yeah, I think he's battling with his mind in a much harder way than most people realize it. And them critiquing him about
I mean,
the drug use
he's
and all
actually a
that.
perfect example of when you have a high performance athlete who finds success, and this happens a lot in fighters. You have a high performance athlete who goes through the career and they're at the top of the food chain. And number one, the hardest thing in fighting is to stay at the top. It's not climbing the ladder
Mm.
because it's only a matter of a time until you lose, and because you're going to, age will catch up with you. And then once you decide, okay, now it's time to leave the ring, how do you reinvent yourself either in another modicum of sport or something else
Very
so
hard
that
to
you can still retain that sense of accomplishment?
friend who is coaching athletes how to get out of the professional athlete's life and build a new life. It's very hard for them, really hard.
Mm.
And McGregor is such an example. He wasn't just on top of the game; he changed the game and big time.
Well, he's not here to take part. He's here to take over.
He did.
He did. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. When we look at somebody who says, I mean, let's look at some key takeaways. So somebody's here listening saying, I love the names like Bezos, Cardone, Zuckerberg, what they did for their bodies. I love like what Volkanovski did when he converted from rugby to MMA. I love, looking at Israel Adesanya and how the skinny man won the game and all of these different things. If we were going to break it out into a start, continue, stop kind of mindset. So what is the first thing that somebody to be successful needs to stop doing?
Successful in like fitness or in
Fitness perspective.
fitness perspective. Stop thinking that's a temporary game and just give up on the idea that you will reach your goal when you have achieved. You absolutely never will be satisfied with your achievements in fitness. Like you will have minuscule periods of your life where you say, I'm very strong or I'm very fit until tomorrow. And that's going to continue. So give up that idea and then learn what are the smallest actions that you can take in training, nutrition, sleep, and maybe like alcohol habits, kind of stuff, drugs and alcohol. So avoid processed foods, work out 3 to 4 times a week, sleep 7 to 8 hours, and learn to maintain. It's like so freaking simple. And most people complicate it, and that's why they drop off at the end. They either start training too much, they diet too much, they do something too much.
Now, let's talk a little bit about sleep because you and I we might differ on this topic. At 10X GrowthCon, there was Robert Herjavec, who was on stage, and he talked about his sleep habits. Jeff Bezos, actively talks about his habits and their sleep habits. And when you look at people like that, they're sleeping anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a day, kind of a thing. And I know for me, when I sleep 6 hours or under, like 5 or 6 hours, I feel amazing. When I sleep 8 hours, I am sluggish the whole day. So why do you think people really orient around 7 hours rather than kind of what works for our body?
Because it's proven by science that sleeping less can affect your brain long term. So there's that book, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Not sure if you read it. It's a very deep scientific book. It's the deepest book on sleep so far. And Matthew Walker is becoming more popular because of it all the time. They've proven that this can be related to Alzheimer and stuff like that, which we don't really understand that well. We don't know how to prevent that well, but sleep supposedly is one of the reasons why these things are happening. But to your point, when somebody performs best at 6 hours and struggles to sleep 7 to 8 hours, I don't push them to sleep 8 hours. I mean, my pastor, my previous pastor who had the heavy ADHD, he barely sleeps like 6 hours. He's performing like a Terminator, like 24/7. Hyperactive person, doing so much, never gets tired, sleeps only 6 hours, and I can't do anything about it. He knows that this is probably going to hurt him in the long run, but it's his
But I
choice. I
mean,
mean, it's your body.
I'm a math guy. So if I'm trading my 80-year-old self hours to my 40-year-old or 50-year-old self hours, I'll take more hours at 50 to trade them for when I'm 80.
But what if you take hours early, ends up like that movie? Remember the latest movie, The Substance? You watch The Substance? That
No, I
woman,
haven't seen it.
that movie is so good. You have to watch it. So Demi Moore, it's the actress playing, and she was taking that drug that made instantly a younger version of herself that she was able to live through. And they had to switch turns and all that. And that younger version was so much better. And at some point, she broke the rule of not returning to her original body. And that younger version started eating of her original body. Eventually, she ended up dying very, very badly. I mean, you gotta watch the movie. It's ridiculous. Sometimes making the decision of making these sacrifices with sleep or chemicals, it could be for steroids, for example, trying to speed up your experience as you're young. It might cost you more than what you're willing to pay if you realize, with your mindset at the age of 80 or 60, you
Well,
can
I mean,
find
I
yourself.
guess it's you bring up a fair point that it's always easier to spend tomorrow's money today. And so if I'm spending tomorrow's time today, I don't feel the cost of it. And that's why it probably feels irrelevant.
There's a risk, right? There's a risk. And then that's why a lot of people don't get into fitness. Pretty much the same reason from a young age. They think they have time. The earlier point we made. They think they have 60, 70 years left wipe over. I'll start when it's needed.
Well, it's something that I'm doing with my kids right now, a little, and it'd be interesting to get your feedback on this. And it's just a very simple exercise that I'm doing with them is every day we set aside time to do, and it's just a simple one, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 jump squats. And just once a day, just that's it. Super simple. But there's a caveat. We have to do it 7 days a week. And they're the one who has to come to me and say it's time to go do it. And if we miss a day, well, guess what? Next day we got to do 200. If we miss a day, now we got to do 300. And so because by the end of the week, we have to do 700. So whether we do it all in one day and front end load the week so you don't have to do it for the end of the week, or whether we break it out into each of those individual days, or we have to do it at the end and play catch up, no matter what, we have to do 700 a week. What's your thoughts on that process? And what do you think the outcomes would look like?
How old are your kids?
My kids are 15, 13, and 10.
Oh, it's great for them, percent. Like you're teaching them to love fitness and turn it into a game. This is the best thing you can do. I teach my older clients how to turn fitness into a game, go and play sports and do things. So like this normalizes the whole game of fitness. Do it anywhere, anytime, do it, whatever the cost. Just find a way and do it. And they feel the benefits of it. You yourself, you might overdo it. You might find yourself a bit too sore sometimes, struggling.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't recover as fast.
Well,
I love
that's
it
the
for
hardest thing. Yeah. Getting older is recovery.
yeah.
That, I'm used to working I typically, up until this year, I typically would work out once at 4:45 in the morning. So I'd be at the gym by 5:30, train to 7. And then I'd come at nighttime and I'd train from 7 to 9. So I trained about 4 hours a day, every day. And I could do that all the time. No questions asked up until this last year. And all of a sudden, I don't know if age caught up with me or whatever, but my recovery, all of a sudden, it's a lot to recover now at 50.
What's your age? 50. Have you checked your testosterone levels?
Not really looked at that at this point, and I don't even know if I'm interested in any of that, playing that game. I've seen people who've gone through it, and certainly it can make some physical changes in their body. I just don't want to create a situation of reliance on an injection of something.
Yeah, I got your point. But if you can afford it, I personally feel like this is not that bad of a deal when you get at that age, when your testosterone drops to these levels where it starts feeling miserable. As long as you can afford paying for it and you have a good doctor and a good source of it just to bring your testosterone a little bit back up, can change the game, not just physically, forget about the physical side, mentally. You can keep dominating for a long time. I mean, a lot of the names that you mentioned, like Bezos and most of these adult stars, like Sylvester Stallone. I saw Sylvester Stallone doing pull-ups on ropes with 75 pounds on his waist. 71 years old with 100 pounds on his waist or something like that. It was a crazy number, 71 years old. They are on steroids. This is not natural. If you don't take anything, you're never going to sustain that naturally. So that's why.
Yeah, fair point on that one. And I think there probably will be a time period when that's something that I might consider. At this point, I look at it and I want to see how long I can go without it. I love winning jiu-jitsu competitions, knowing that in the Masters, most of them are taking TRT and I'm not, and I can still win. And that makes me feel good. And so if I can keep on doing that, I feel great. My biggest challenge is not in energy levels. It's just in, recovery, and just knowing
Recovery,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
What you can do as well is something that a lot of professional athletes do: switch from more of these strength sports, which you're not doing much of, switch to endurance sports. Find some other activities like long running, cycling.
But that's why I switched to half guard. It's an endurance game. I don't play top anymore. I don't play like the power top game of driving in a neon belly. I'm consistently bottom half, and I attack from there.
Yeah.
It's an
Which
endurance game.
in an endurance sport you can go for a long time. I have a friend who is in the Hall of Fame for BMX, old school, like competitive cyclist, and he's at your age, still competing, winning races. No doping, no TRTs, nothing, just skills and endurance. You can endure a long time at this age. and you also have the skills, you know how to manage your energy output, and yeah, you can dominate with that only.
That's the one thing that I try to pass on when I'm coaching, some of the new competitors is around the idea of energy management, because I think that's my one advantage that I have of age over youth, is that youth will, go at 90, 95% as long as they can sustain, and then they go down to 60%. Whereas if I can just coast at 70 the whole way, I can get to that point where my energy level will exceed theirs at the long game.
That skill, I just had a conversation with my friend. It's very transferable to business in life. Sometimes in life, in business, you have to push so hard for a very long time, and if you continue, you burn out. You know, you probably had episodes on burnout only. It's a massive thing, and when you burn out, you're fucked. You need a long time for recovery. And if you can predict when these moments are coming, you're not gonna waste your energy in rushing into things and really being this highly productive person on stupid things. Big prior to this period, for example, it could be investing in something new. You know, it's a new period in the company is coming, or I'm hiring a business coach. I will preserve my energy for that because I don't want to burn out 3 months into the program and then lose everything. Yeah, it's a very transferable skill. I personally use it a lot, and I justify without my laziness sometimes.
Well, I mean, you look at it, that goes to the if you juxtapose Bezos with Islam Makiev, Islam Makiev says one of the biggest things is not just winning, but he tries to avoid damage. And you put that in parallel with Bezos. Bezos says, I focus on making fewer, better decisions by protecting my energy. Both of them in those statements, as they're really saying, is that while they are engaged actively in the pursuit of winning, pursuit of conservation of energy is of just key paramount.
You can throw like 100 punches and only 20 of them will land and one will make a difference. So if you can just throw five and four of them hit, like have a better life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, who was it? It was, I mean, Floyd Mayweather was that way. I mean, Floyd Mayweather, I mean, his defensive game was way better than his offensive game, just with that little shoulder roll that he would do and just his ability to be able to predict and adapt and then throw exactly when he needed to. And I think that makes for such a spectacle if you're looking at the details of what they're doing.
He's like a miracle guy. So good. Sometimes I just watch and I try to understand. Not at that level to even understand him. He's way beyond like me and many other.
Yeah. Well, Gary Keller actually, he read this when you apply this to a business mindset. Gary Keller really talks about intensity and how you can create intensity through consistency, because most people create intensity through a hyper focused creation of a moment rather than creating a consistent, repeatable process. And that intensity of creating a consistent, repeatable process will always beat that flash in the pan.
Yeah. I never called it intensity, but it makes total sense. I usually call it just a momentum. I always say just do the momentum and don't let the momentum drop.
Yep.
With the game, you can be slow, but make sure it's a momentum. Or with fitness, we have that rule. I came up with this idea because a lot of my clients struggle make the right decisions, and sometimes they're really not on top of their game, and they struggle to get back on track with things so they can continue making progress. So I gave them this idea of how you do three types of actions in your life, and when it comes to fitness, the action number one is the one that drives you forward towards a goal. That could be you doing your steps, could be doing a workout, or eating the right foods. Action number two is sort of procrastinating, not doing anything. It could be just skipping the workout, or just not doing your steps, but still doing something, or just eating but not eating enough protein. And action number three is the one that you do and totally pulls you the other direction. Order a pizza. Just skip your workouts for a week. You know, do something that actually pulls you the other way. If you only stop doing the action number three and you let action number two and number one, which is procrastination and moving forward, stay, you'll be absolutely fine. Instead of making two steps forward and one step back, or even two steps back, which most people do, you'll be making one step forward, take a break, procrastinate, another step forward. If you avoid these actions that move in the opposite direction, you're winning in any game. And that is really the what momentum really looks like, what this intensity in the long run looks like. Don't make things that pull you backwards. Don't make mistakes. Don't get injured for athletes. Don't do the stupid things. You know.
That's actually a really interesting way to look at it. So what you're saying is there's the actions that get you into momentum. There's the actions that get you into procrastination of just not doing anything. And then there's the counterintuitive actions that will actually be the opposite direction that you need to go. And if you want to make an impact in your life, the best thing to do is to take that third category of the counter actions and just remove them. Because out of all the three, it's the most important one because it's the one driving you in reverse.
I think Bruce Lee talks about that a lot. And I had that idea for years, and then it came into these things. There was a famous saying, "Cut out the unessentials," from Bruce Lee. Talks about clearing up these parts of your movement of your life that just don't serve you, that just pull you the other way. You have to identify these. They're small habits, they're subtle things. Like you could be just the love for your tiramisu and just ordering it every time you go.
Why do you have to pick on tiramisu?
Because I love it.
Out of all the things you had to pick on, you had to pick on tiramisu. It's my one weakness. And no, I'm going to have tiramisu once every 6 months, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, look, when it's once a month, you have to put it in the category of you're not hurting yourself that much, right?
Yeah, yeah. If it's every day, I could see. But yeah. So guys, don't eliminate tiramisu. Just make it last.
That's one of the big keys when managing diet and food. Don't eliminate any food. I never eliminated any food of my diet by forcing myself, by setting rules. I've tried that just to build my discipline and go through some period. But in reality, I prefer managing the foods. Managing. And what's interesting is that your body is going to help you in this process. Our body is very smart. And when you are not eating McDonald's, for example, for a month, you will notice that your cravings for McDonald's will drop down to zero. You practically...
No, it has the antithesis. You go have McDonald's and your body's going to fire off like a rocket and get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, your body will help you when you start taking these actions of just managing. But at the same time, sometimes you have a huge craving. And the best thing you can do is satisfy this craving the moment you see it coming. If you know you're going to slip into this old bad behavior. If you're just getting out of the cycle of eating bad foods, don't just eliminate them, but have small portions. First, learn to control that small portion. One of the biggest things is also don't buy like in bulk. Most people have a problem because they're going to buy for the whole family, for the whole week. Let's you want to eat a waffle and buy a whole fucking, sorry for swearing, but whole box of waffles, so we have, because they're on promotions. Some things you have to avoid buying. Don't let them go into your life, daily life. When you crave them, just have a little bit and have the expensive options too, go and enjoy them.
Well, that's, yeah, absolutely. I think, if you're going to embellish your life, embellish wholeheartedly, go big or go home. But I think the one thing that you brought up, I think that, and we talked about this actually in a podcast with a guest of mine a few months ago, where we talked about the idea of elimination versus management, which you bring up in a very thoughtful way, is that when somebody goes to the idea around elimination, you're actually giving agency to the thing that you're getting rid of, because it can actually control you, because you're saying, I can't have that. And the only way I can't have that is by eliminating it, rather than saying, I can surround myself with it. I can take a small morsel of it, but I retain the agency in it, and that I'm in control. And by having that little slice of tiramisu, not the whole cake, I'm able to say, I am in control at this moment, not it. And you retain that agency in the decision-making process. And as you get used to that mechanism of self-control and self-regulation, you don't need to go through the elimination process. You just need to go through the reduction process.
You're putting this food in a pedestal like something special when you're trying to eliminate it, like this very delicious food that you just can't afford to eat, and you have to be that hardcore badass that never ate it. You don't want to be in that position. That's a bad position to be in. You want to be in the position where you don't give a damn for that food. You can have it on the table, you don't even want it. And you're not going to get there if you just restrict yourself. You have to overcome the craving for it. One of the most powerful tools to do that is mindful eating. A lot of people talk about mindful eating, but not many understand it. Mindful eating allows you to just dive into the food that you're eating emotionally, intellectually, as you're eating, and acknowledge it for what it is, how it tastes, what's the texture, what does it do to your body, and all the good things about it, and also all the bad things about it. And when you start mindfully eating, you will notice that the boring rice might be just as good as the ice cream that you used to modify. And at the same time, that chocolate that you love so much, it might start tasting like chemicals in your mouth, and it might give you that wrong feeling. You will recognize that different foods are just foods. You're just addicted to some hype that's artificially made. Some of them spike up your dopamine. When you're mindfully eating, you will recognize that this is nothing magical about that food. It just makes me feel that way. But I can get that feeling of something else. I can do a few squats. I can go outside, have a walk. And I'll have it even in a better way. I'm not going to have a crash after that. I'm just going to feel energized, motivated. Yeah, mindful eating, man. That's a big one. Very big one.
I was talking with my daughter the other day around this concept, maybe not as eloquently as you just mentioned it, but around the idea that we were talking about elegant restaurants versus, a buffet. And when you go to a buffet, it's about slopping as much onto your plate as you possibly can and just engorging yourself. And when you look at your plate and you go to a buffet, it's all these different things mushed together. So you really can't experience the independent tastes, as opposed to when you go to some elegant place where they craft a piece of art on your plate and you spend a moment looking at it and the ambiance, you look around and you listen to the music and look at the artwork on the wall and you experience that. And then you look down at your food and you take a small piece of that little piece of sashimi or whatever else is there and you just taste it. You don't, dip it into your soy sauce with tons of wasabi. You just have it on its own and you really taste the creation that's been put in front of you. And the explosion of taste and flavor that can have from such a small little morsel can be so much more impactful than when you went and engorged yourself at that buffet.
Yeah. But you know what? If you're completely out of control, if you haven't gained that control, and you're somebody who is used to binge eating all the time and just shoving your mouth with all sorts of stuff that you can find on the table, you're not gonna be able to calm yourself down at that place and relax and enjoy life, enjoy the present, the dish that's being presented to you, the art. It's art. What do you say?
Yeah,
It's art.
absolutely.
Be calm and enjoy it. But if you just think, oh, how little it is and I need more, like you're missing on a whole big part of life. I love food. Food is great. Just, learn to enjoy it. Don't depend on it for your emotional well-being.
Yeah, it's so true. I think I know when I get into a rhythm, I have a mechanism. Food becomes a function, not a moment of enjoyment until I go to one of those moments where I've got a beautiful steak or something and it's fantastic. If you were looking at pleasure foods, we already talked about tiramisu. What is the one food that might take you down?
Gotta be some of those like cakes. I don't even know their names, but sometimes there's these people who have these old recipes been carrying for decades in their families. Some cake that some old lady cooks for 7 days and stuff like that. Like
You're like, but there's so much effort in it. I just need to enjoy it. Yeah.
it's not gonna be just enjoy it. I will just like enjoy the whole thing. And I'm not gonna feel guilt about it though.
There's this fighter who reminded me of my biggest weakness, and he's a boxer, and his biggest deficit is the other one that sneaks in. Tiramisu, I can see it. It can see it coming a mile away. But the secret weapon that kills me all the time is one thing that's in most households. Peanut butter, man. Oh
Peanut butter.
God.
I used to be a lot on peanut butter, and you know what? I end up eating so much that I don't even care about it. I had sandwich, a toast with peanut butter and banana and cinnamon on it every day
Amazing.
as a snack. That was my snack for like 2 years straight. I just had enough of it.
Yeah, I think you lack the conviction to peanut butter that I have. And peanut butter banana, I'm looking at my kitchen going,
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's a healthy snack too. It's a healthy snack too. There are a lot of healthy snacks that people can have without a problem. A lot of them. You just have to explore them. Be curious. Don't be lazy. One of the problems we have with food is we're lazy, and I tend to be like lazy around cooking. And for years, I've been cooking all these basic stuff. And lately, I realized I don't like my food, and I started looking into like these meal prep services. But I know I'm not gonna like them either, and I'm gonna end up like spending thousands on food and not liking it. And I recognize that I'm a bit of a fool. So what I started doing is started cooking now a little more. I forced myself to learn a new recipe. I just cooked a rabbit today. It was delicious. The
Nice.
first time in my life. But you know what? I think like I can get used to this. And when you do that, then you can cook yourself healthy, good dishes that will keep you fit and you will enjoy. You eat like a king. Your wife can
So
cook.
good.
You don't need to
I
cook
made I
yourself.
made bison the other week. I made venison the other week. I didn't do rabbit in a while. That has not happened for a long time. Uh, but yeah, anything that could be either roasted or barbecued. Heck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And the quality of the meat is super important, by the way. Good report for your health. Actually, I had a big superstore nearby that I was eating for 5, 6 months, the meat from it. And at the end of these 5, 6 months, I started feeling sick of the chicken. Like I felt like the chicken is disgusting. And I didn't realize that this is just because of the chicken in that store. Until one day somebody told me, go buy chicken from somewhere else. And I was like, maybe you're right. And then I went.
Absolutely.
I
I
was
mean,
like,
I
holy
know with
shit.
ground beef, when I go to a local butcher that gets local meat, and if you cook ground beef that is local butcher, local meat, and you put it into a pan and you just fry it in a pan, you almost have to add oil so it doesn't stick to the pan. Whereas if you get it from the grocery store, it fills up with this water base, this saltwater base that just appears out of nowhere. And you've got, this layer of oily water in the bottom, and it's totally different feel you feel after eating that local versus the other.
It's not the same thing. It's not the
No,
same. God knows how fast they grow them. In Google, I checked how fast they grow the chickens in these superstores. Google referenced like 4 to 6 weeks for the chicken to grow and to be ready for eating, like a full-grown chicken. And I feel like the superstore I was eating from, they grow them for 2 weeks there. It was that bad.
they blow them up like balloons and then just
They
pop them
literally
onto
do
your plate.
anything possible to make these chickens grow. And all the other meats that they farm this way, they put them steroids and all sorts of stuff. And I don't think we fully realize how bad these meats actually are for us. At the same
Yeah,
time, it's better than eating chocolates and just carbohydrates. You have to eat your meat too. So if your choice is meat, bad meat or no meat at all, then you probably want to be eating the bad meat, but still not good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, your bodies don't lie to us. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you got to listen to what it tells you.
that's a big one. You gotta learn to listen to your body, the signals. And often my clients ask me, how do you listen to your body? We actually create these big classes so we can explain it all. Your body can respond in physiological way, in the way your stomach feels, in the way your energy is throughout the day. Is it stable? Is it not? Do you perform well with your workouts? Your mood is a big one. How fired up you feel, how well you sleep. These are signals that your body is giving. And if you just make it a mission to optimize yourself, to perform at your peak at the most time, you're kind of on the right track now. That's the lifestyle we want. That's the lifestyle I want for everyone who comes to me, to make them shift from I don't know how to do it. That's impossible. To start thinking, oh, okay, now this works for me, but this doesn't work for me. I feel good today. Yesterday I didn't feel good because of that food, so I have to switch that. And I wanted to live in that. I personally live in this. Like it's been 6 years since I committed to this journey, to this serious and consistent, and it doesn't seem to be ever ending. I haven't arrived. I keep exploring like myself.
It's
What makes me
perfect.
better?
Absolutely. Well, I think the idea that, from a perspective of a coach and helping somebody in their journey in fitness, especially for high performing executives, they need somebody who can get them those wins, because you can either go try to struggle and do it alone, or you can do it with somebody else. I mean, my firm belief is that there's three people you need in your life. You need a role model, somebody who's done it before. And even it's not that specific, but somebody's done something like what you're looking at doing before. And Elon Musk has got role models. And then if you look at, you need a mentor. So you need somebody who has that high level of awareness of what can or could be done and knows maybe you or knows the framework of somebody like you who could give us. That could be somebody's mentor from close or from afar, like maybe somebody listening to your YouTube channel. And then the last thing is you need a coach. You need somebody who's going to really transact that principles based understanding of what the objectives of what you need to get done into actual tactical advantage and actually getting into action and doing things. And where the coach can really bring in that level of acuity around those specific tasks that need to be taken and the accountability about doing those things. And so to be going over and helping those people to do that from a coaching perspective, I think that's paramount.
Yeah. Which that's exactly what it gives you is like precision in the things that you do. It gives you exactly what to tweak in your training, in your movement, in your daily habits, get the most results. Like we talked about a few punches instead of throwing 1,000. Like that's what a coach does for you.
Behind every successful athlete is an amazing coach. One of my favorite is John Danaher. And John Danaher, I mean, he is a legend when it comes to his coaching methodology for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think it's so critical that you find somebody that you are in tune with and that they're in tune with your success. And that's really important.
Yeah, that actually, you're talking about this, the ability of the coach to understand your personal thought patterns, your personal behavior, your personal desires, your personal style of life and doing things. I had problems with business coaches in this area where I go and I pay a bunch of money. And it have actually happened twice. I pay for the best coaches that I can find in my area, in my industry. Pay them a lot of money. They teach me all the systems. They teach me how things are done in general. But when it comes to applying it to my personal business and the way I see things, where I have to put my own style into it, like the message I send to people, the content that I'm filming and why am I filming it, they were absolutely useless. They weren't able or not willing to spend the time with me because I was only paying the 10,000 to spend a few hours with me to really understand where I'm coming from and how can we tweak things to make them better work for me. All they were doing is just give me the blueprint. Do it like this guy or like that guy. These guys have done it. You can choose how you want to do it like them. I don't want to be like anybody. And most people are like that too in their life, in their fitness, in business. Most people have their own way in which they will be best. Like Conor McGregor was his best in his own way. And if you find a coach like that, that's priceless.
Yeah, and
That's
his
really
coach was
priceless.
phenomenal at bringing out the best in Conor for sure.
Yeah.
And look at Mike Tyson's coach and what he did with Mike Tyson. Customato, legend in the way that he brought Mike to where he was.
Yeah, he was a hypnotist. He was a
Was he
hypnotist.
really?
It's a big story. He was a hypnotist and he was hypnotizing him from a very young age. To believe, I might be wrong here, right? To believe that there is no self. It's only the mission or something like that. You gotta watch that. Google it. Maybe on Joe Rogan's podcast, they spoke about it. So Mike Tyson's been hypnotized to be an absolute machine, a dominator, like nobody else like him. And I think that's been a big part of it.
But and while he was a dominator in the ring, he certainly is doing well in the business ring. When you look at the things like that last fight he had with Logan,
I don't think he should have let Logan win, even for the money. I mean, how much you want?
I
I
I
really
think
wanted him
everybody
to
wanted
get
him to do
knocked
it,
out.
but yeah.
Like, yeah, why? Is it so much money that he won that it was worth it? There's literally a video, a snippet of Mike about to swing, and you know that swing is going to put that
Oh yeah,
guy
I
to
know
sleep
exactly the
right
video you're
away.
talking about, where
Yeah,
he pulls it
and
back.
his stop, and his stops. It's so powerful when you say it, you can kick ass. Yeah,
But he also
yeah.
knows business. He was actually at a growth conference with Grant Cardone last year where he talked about biting Vander's ear. And he said, yeah, they got fined for $1 million, but after all the publicity and all that stuff, I made about $3 million. So I'll bite anybody's ear going forward for the right amount of money.
Yeah, that's a shame.
And so he knows the business element and he knows that while boxing is, and this is a challenge in boxing, while boxing is a fight, it's a spectacle first.
That's so true. That's so true.
We'll
Without the
see what Dana
spectacle,
White does to change that.
And without the spectacle, there's no money for the athletes in a way.
That's right.
But it's got to be, I think in the United Arab Emirates, they brought that up. There's got to be some sort of boundaries, a line between these show fights and the real fights. People have to know what they're watching. It has to be like promoted in the right way. You can't be promoting a fight like Logan Paul and Mike Tyson and say it's going to be a legit fight, and then it's not. People have to be aware that this is not a real fight.
When I was younger, I used to watch Hulk Hogan, and I used to watch Randy the Macho Man Savage, and I used to watch all of the WWF wrestling with Vince McMahon and all that jazz. And there was the illusion of it being real. Now I know it's definitely a physical, they have to be physical specimens to be successful in what they do, but it's not a real fight. You're going there for the spectacle.
Yeah. And you're right. They have to be physically specimen to be there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They are definitely athletes, but it's a show. And I think it has to be, treated as such. Like
I think as humans, we're used to the lie. We watch Hollywood movies all the time, and it's not real, but we enjoy it.
Yeah, well, you're right about one thing. We're used to the lie because we live in a fallen world. That's my belief. It's never going to change.
That would be another podcast.
Another podcast.
Well, dude, let's talk a little bit about your what you're doing on your YouTube channel. Talk about some of the things that people can expect to see from you going forward into 2025.
Well, I'm a fitness coach, man. I do as any other fitness coach. I try to listen to my clients, the things that they need, and the things that I do with them. I try to do that there. So far, I'm just doing the podcast, and I try to not watch anyone's content before I record and not see what's trending or whatsoever. I literally go like, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is how we work, this is how we get results, and I deliver value. And yeah, I'm there to serve people. That's what it is. And now I'm really into it. It's become like a very interesting platform for me, the podcast and the YouTube, because I get to be myself. And all these short form content platforms, I can't be myself there. I'm much more analytical. I explain things a lot. I dive into a lot of details and science, and like mostly any topic in the fitness, I can't give in a minute of video. I can go in like for a properly long time and go all around and deliver the topic properly. So this short form content's never been my power. And it's always been like actually frustrating to me. I'm not even an entertaining guy. I'm quite normal and boring. Like, trying to entertain people.
I would tend to disagree. I think the people who can, look at the content and understand the delivery mechanism is actually part of the content. Somebody who's very successful at that would be somebody like Lex Friedman. And Lex Friedman, when he does his podcast, he's very monotone. He's very factual. He's very much into the details of everything, and he loves long form content. So I think the way is find the people who've done it before, emulate those as role models, find the mentors who can give you that advice to get to the next level, and then find the coach who's going to get you there. And that's the critical success factor.
Right. I'm trying to follow these steps.
Beautiful. My man, I'm wearing this shirt right now. It says live to fight, fight to win. That's one of the mottos of our gym. And you're definitely somebody who emulates that model. And it's been an absolute pleasure sharing the podcast moment with you. And man, we'll maybe do another show to dive into that other topic that we closed off with and see where that goes.
It's a great honor, man. I love this podcast and I love the episode and what you do. Very genuine. It comes across really nice.
Thank you. And I will have tiramisu in the next few months.
Yeah, you should not going to have one tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. I skipped the gym this morning, so I can't. And guys, this is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast where we speak honesty, and we'll see you on the next one.